Wow. Hello everyone, Vinsensei here and we're gonna play the first three. So let's start. Press enter to start. Wow, ang ganda ah. Actually, hindi ko alam kung saan patungo yung kwento na ito. Nagandahan lang ako sa itsura kaya dinownload ko. Tsaka parang ang cool ng laro eh. Tsaka kasi animal yung bida. Aww.
Are you awake? I thought I heard you get up.
Yeah, I'm awake. Sorry, I just can't sleep.
Are you thinking about him?
Yeah, a bit. You should get back to sleep, my love. I'm fine.
No, it's okay. What else is on your mind?
I don't know. It seems weird, but I had one of the most vivid dreams of my life. I saw a fox on a snowy mountain, just looking confused and worried. Those eyes. I can't get those eyes out of my head. She was running in the windy snow, looking for something.
Do you think it has to do with you and what's been going on?
I don't know. It was just a dream, Rachel. They're not meant to make sense. A lot's happened the past couple days, that's all.
Well, if you're not going to sleep
Pinapakinggan ko lang yung
anyway,
kwento ah.
you should tell me. I want to hear.
All right.
Saan papunta si Wolfie? Ah, si Fox pala. Fox pala siya. Fox siya, di ba? Ang cool. Ang ganda. Ang cute ng graphics. Hello. Fox! Paano?
So, not far from her home, she followed that path to something unexpected.
Ano yun? May baby na fox. Aww. Ang cute ng double
She
jump.
couldn't stay, though. She had to find her other two children. So
Aww.
she took that path. She
Children
followed
niya yun.
it towards something
Isa sa anak.
ancient. Something with answers.
Whoa. Wow.
The fox looked high and low, searching for any sign of her cubs. Points of light
Ano to?
showed the way to this ancient tree. It was as if each one had a story to tell, all their own. The land was trying to tell my story, too. I felt like I was right behind her the whole time.
Aww. Uy, may mga ibang hayop. Rabbit. Kinakain ko yan, di ba? Halika kayo. Aha. Hindi niya kinakain. Diet. Ang relaxing ng laro. Kiat. Oh. Meron din doon? Meron din doon. Kunin ko muna to. Meron din doon sa taas. Unahin ko na yung sa baba kung gano'n. Oh, may playground? Di ba sa playground yan? Ano to?
Do you remember what my dad did for a living?
Wasn't
What?
he like a lumberjack?
That's one way of putting it. If wood was a canvas, then a carving knife was his paintbrush. Even after working a 50-hour week, even after his hands were more splinters than skin, he would bring home the nicest piece of Alaskan weeping cedar and make me toys. That wooden train was the first toy I can remember, and I loved it. I just knew from a young age I was going to be a lumberjack, like my father.
Ayun. Aww. May kwento siyang ano. May kwento. Ang ganda. Ang astig ng kwento. Oh. Sa'yo nandito. Ayun. Ito, ano to? Jeep? Truck? Wow, ang ganda oh. Meron din dun. Unahin ko na siguro yung nandito. So balik na ako dun. Kasi nandun yung iba eh. Baka nandun yung mga importante kong kukunan. Uy, meron sa taas. Ano to? Duyan? Ah. May duyan. Wow! Merong isa doon eh. Balik. Ang ganda rin ng music. Sa totoo lang ang cool ng music eh. Ano yan? Uy, may hukayin ulit.
The older I got, the more I withdrew. I asked myself, why talk to anybody anyway? Why bother when I'm happy by myself?
Drawing.
I started drawing a lot, mostly animals I saw in the woods by my home. I then imagined designing my own hideouts with things like TVs and pantries full of chips and cookies. I think that idea of leaving home and drawing blueprints started my career. I found a lot of solace in that.
I'm not surprised, but I did the same thing, you know? There's something special about having a place to call your own.
And now look at us. Well, if you count renting in an overpriced city.
It's as close as we can get for now.
Punta ko muna to nasa taas. Kaya ako siya dinownload kasi ang cute ng graphics. Hindi ko siya gano'ng tinignan kasi mas gusto ko nakikita pag nilalaro na kaysa bisitahin ko yung trailer.
Usually those kids would leave me alone, but somehow they could tell I was different. They made fun of how far away I lived. They called my dad a sourdough. I was a blabbermouth as a kid, telling my dad stories I made up for hours. But after that show and tell, I didn't tell him much anymore. He didn't know exactly what was wrong, but his best guess was that the toys he carved weren't cool enough. He carved me a tank and tried to tell me what it was like to be in a real tank as a serviceman.
I didn't know your dad was in the military.
Yeah, in the army. The sad thing is that I'd pretty much forgotten until just now. There's so much I still don't know about him.
I'm sorry. He knows how much you love him. You're going to see him again soon and have some closure, I'm sure.
Curious tuloy ako. Ang ganda ng tank ko. Ito yung malaking version. Wow, ang cool. Ganda oh. So, puntahan natin yung nasa malayo naman. Wala na ako dito makukuha eh. Yup. Ano yun? Rocket? Laki nyo. Gusto ko lang makita yung rocket. Rocket ba to? Rocket na slide. Ganda.
As a kid, did you ever do show and tell in your class?
Yeah, I think I only did it once, when I was in the 4th grade. You know how my life was around then. I wanted to show my class what helped pass the time and distracted me, so I brought a dozen paper cranes I had made. I think I told everyone how badly I wanted to be a bird and fly, embarrassingly enough.
Don't be embarrassed. Every kid wants to fly. For me, it was another toy from my dad, a wooden boat. I remember guarding it so carefully in my hands as I walked into class. When I sat down, a group of boys immediately made fun of it. They asked which trash can I found it in, or why an ugly log was my favorite toy. When I got up, I didn't even want to tell them my dad had carved it. I said it was a joke gift my friend had given me.
Kids can be so cruel.
Some of them are. I shouldn't have let them get to me, but it did. It's amazing we bounced back at all.
May aeroplano. Siguro dapat na ako lumayo sa lugar na to. Paalam world. Lilipat na ako sa ibang planeta. Oh. Whoa! What? So dito naman magtutuloy yung kwento nila. Let's run! Hindi ko akalain na dun pupunta eh. Hindi ko din alam eh. Oh, ang ganda niya, visual.
My teenage years were full of sketching, angst, and trouble. I wasn't popular or unpopular. Maybe just forgettable.
Oh,
I guess that gave me a sense of freedom.
ganda.
So I hung out with crazy kids, doing crazy things, even though I mostly just watched the chaos ensue. We did it all. Put fireworks in mailboxes, hide roadkill in people's garages, break windows of the barber shop in Anchorage.
Fireworks.
My dad was furious, but he was so busy working he couldn't do much to stop me from going out.
I think being an adult means there's no one to stop you making hard decisions. He had to make a living, and he couldn't be in 2 places at once.
Yeah, I realize that now.
Wow.
But at the time, I was sure he was more interested in growing his business than what was going on with me.
Oo, ba't naman niya inisip yun? Pag hindi nagtrabaho tatay niya, edi wala silang makakain. Wait lang. Upuan? Sigarilyo?
He was working another late night, and my friends were over, saying how bored they were and how they had come all the way out to my house for nothing. One of them mentioned how that old, ugly beyond belief truck was still in the garage, and how we should take it for a spin. I was only 15, so I kind of fought it for a
Ganda
while.
ng police car.
The next thing I knew, we were careening around the mountain path, rocks spitting onto the sides of the cliff, while my dad's cringeworthy bluegrass blared out the speakers. I drove while my friends were in the back of that yellow and purple truck, throwing beer bottles and trash at anything remotely interesting. Felt like I was soaring in the air with borrowed wings. But all good things have endings. A cop outside of Eagle River pulled us over after he saw us in a bottle rocket into someone's yard. What followed was a long night of talking to disappointed adults and feeling smaller than ever.
Aww. Uy, butterfly! Whee! What? Come here. Tumaas yung talon ko, siguro dito yan. Yang cool! Ah! Ang ganda. Gusto ko makompleto yung kwento niya. Kung ano yung nangyari. Puro patungkol sa tatay niya eh. Daming butterfly. Okay. Tibay ng wolf. Fox na to. Meron dun. Ano to? Ano nakalagay? Barber shop. Kwento niya to. Yun yung truck sa mountainside.
After he drove me home from the police station, I blew up at him, saying how I never wanted to be like him, how I was gonna be someone and leave that hick icebox for good. He just looked forward at the road with tired eyes. I took out that bluegrass tape from the cassette deck and chucked it out the window.
Aww.
In my sage teenage wisdom, I thought I proved the ultimate point. But my dad had a different idea. He slammed the brakes, slowly bowed his head while gripping the steering wheel, and finally looked at me. All he said, like it was a polite request, was, "Make this right." I sat there in silence, fuming, but I eventually got out and combed every square inch of the woods, muttering profanity after profanity. I found it 30 minutes later, near a small waterfall off the road. I went back to the truck, put the wet tape back in, and sure enough it worked. We didn't speak another word to each other the rest of the night.
Wow, I knew you were a crazy teenager, but
It's hard to believe, isn't it? Surprises me too. It's like I didn't really know who that kid was back then. I bet my dad thought the same thing over and over. It's almost like he was saying, "Make this right," to himself, more than to me.
Aww. Nalungkot ako ah. Let's go! Punta na natin yung nandun.
My friends would laugh about that night and talk about how crazy it was. And I laughed along, pretending it didn't bother me. But it did. I imagined my friends growing old in the bush, unable to find that thrill in those godforsaken ice fields. It's like those mountains were a literal wall, keeping me from leaving, where all I would have to look forward to are lumber yards and evening beers. I had to climb over. That was my only goal for a long time.
Dapat naging proud na lang siya sa tatay niya. But feeling ko hindi maganda yung magiging ending netong kwento.
If there was some way I could take my love of drawing and turn it into a way of escape, nothing would make me happier. I wanted to create instead of tearing trees down.
Mga fox
I
or
wanted to
wolf?
move to the lower 48, not because I hated it there in Alaska, but I hated the idea of it. It's like all of that spite inside me had created this monster which followed me around my whole teenage years. I put so much energy into doing what others didn't expect of me. Why did I do that?
There's one fact you're forgetting, though. If you didn't have that fire in you, we probably would have never met.
You're absolutely right. Maybe the destination is all that matters in the end. But then why am I awake? Why am I seeing this fox go on her journey? And why can't I stop thinking about my dad?
Aww. Wala, hindi ko nakita. Wow. Wow. May nakikita na liwanag sa distance. Ayun. Siguro doon na yung sunod kong pupuntahan. Tama ba? Andun yung susunod na kwento. Wait. Higaan, tsaka coke. Ang cool. Bakit lumalabas? What? One of three. Okay. Ayan yung pangalawa. Ang layo, men. Pangatlo? Meron? Wala. May bahay na nakalubog? Ano kaya nangyari sa kanila?
On our property, there were old abandoned pieces of a shed and car long left unused. I used to ask him all the time who those people were that left all this junk. And I'm sure he got so tired of hearing it that he made up some elaborate stories how a brown bear ate them and haunted the woods afterwards. What's funny is I think it made those people seem more real. Growing up thinking they were still hanging out like they couldn't say goodbye. I used to tell my friends how I could swear I saw spirits move near the water, and that always freaked them out. I guess it didn't bother me, because the way I saw it, they were normal people with old cars and sheds, just trying to figure out how to survive and be happy in the middle of nowhere.
Aww.
It was a cool thought that they didn't want to leave, but you know, I was a weird kid.
Well, you had good company since those ghosts like living in a place where they were brutally devoured.
Oh! Oh! May mga puno nakaharang dito. Ito yung isa. Kunin natin to. So may isa pa akong di nakikita. Two of. Isa na lang.
Even at my most distant, at the times when I detested him the most,
Kutsilyo?
he kept reaching out. For a year straight, he asked me every week when we were going camping. I thought he was just dense. Eventually, to shut him up, I agreed. We carried out the worn lawn chairs from the garage and set up a cinder block campfire at the site we'd always used behind the house. We walked down the mountain path, talking in the warm sunshine we only got a couple months of the year.
Ah, andun.
Those 3 obsidian rocks shimmered alongside the shore, almost like sparklers pressed against a dark window. I'll never forget that wet stone on my feet, or how those massive mountains looked even bigger in the lake's reflection. I felt small, but grateful. As the sun set, my dad found something I hadn't seen for a long time. The tree where I'd made my first carving when I was 6. I hadn't even carved it. My dad had helped me, but I still called it my tree. Something about seeing my name there made me open up, and we talked about everything that night in that old camouflage tent. I told him how much I loved sketching and design, and how it would be a dream to study architecture in Seattle. I told him how I didn't get along with my friends much anymore, but that I didn't mind being alone. He told me he was there for me, and he joked that if all he had to do was write my name on a tree to finally get me to talk,
Nape-peer
he
pressure
would have left
siya.
me carved logs with novels on them in front of my room every morning. I don't know why it took me that long to realize it, but it was then I knew how much he had sacrificed for me.
Tama. Hindi natin na-appreciate mga maliliit na bagay. Hello. Ay, sobra.
My dad built a lot of stuff in his free time. If he wasn't watching fly fishing or reading Tom Clancy novels, he was carving something.
Ah,
He made tons of birdhouses.
birdhouse.
Not that he was into bird watching, but I think he really missed working and adding on to the home. If he couldn't afford the time to build onto our own house, he would have to settle with watching birds move into their little homes. We kept an old mattress in the bed of that ugly yellow truck, so we would drive it deep into the woods and then watch the birds fly into their houses while the sun set. Usually it was accompanied by venison jerky or a cold Coke, but not a lot of talking,
Para
which is
doon
how we
yun.
both liked it. We were happiest underneath the evergreens. We decided it was time to finally map out the hundreds of acres we lived on just to pass the
gumawa
time during
sila
the
ng
summer.
mapa.
He was only free in the evenings, so I would spend the day wasting time on dial-up internet and sketching, and then we would rush into the woods, pen and map in hand, before evening fell. Sometimes the
No
aurora
trespassers.
borealis would cast a cold green glow on the mountainside, and we would finish our route underneath a twilight sky. Sometimes I was lonely during those summer days, but there was comfort in the routine.
A lot of teenagers aren't looking for the daily grind, though. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get out, to leave your childhood home. You wanted to progress, to make something of yourself.
Yeah, you're right. That house. I'm sure it's the same as how I left it. Then why does it feel so different?
I doubt you're the only adult to have looked back and asked that question.
Guides yun. Whee! Whee! Ayun, yung natitira. Ngayon ko lang to. Ano nangyari? Sabi na wala na yung kahoy eh. Kasi nakompleto ko na. Uy, kunin ko yan. Uy, sino yun?
The perpetrator stood nearby, unfazed, like nothing was wrong. My dad is dead. and he's never coming back, Rachel. I can tell you these stories, but I can never reminisce with him again. He can never hold a
Aww.
grandchild that we'll probably never be able to have. I can never talk to him again, and I'll never be able to say I'm sorry for everything.
Oo. Masawali talaga ang pagsisisi. Oh no! Grabe naman to si Fox. Oh no. Oh, 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 no. No! Gusto ko makuha yan. Let's go. Dito na tayo sa next na story. Layo ng tinakbo nun ah.
I need to go to bed. I just can't talk about this anymore.
Mga letters.
Good night.
Aww. Tatalon ako bago magdilim. Nasaan ako? Whoa!
Joseph, you can't go to sleep feeling like this. I'm sorry for everything, and I know you need space, but I'm here for you.
Wow.
You don't need to feel so lost. Joseph,
Yeah?
have I ever told you what my mother was like?
No.
You know what it's like not to have a mom at home. And you know how hard that made my childhood. What helped me was watching the birds in the morning before the school bus came. I thought that my mother was one of those birds, and it made me want to be free like her. My mom taught me how to fold origami cranes while she was in the hospital. So I told myself I would fold one every day until I could fly myself. You have strength, Joseph, and you're not as alone as you
Whoa.
think.
It's all just so pointless. Just waiting for life to happen. It's like having the home I always wanted is cursed out of my reach. The thought of being a parent myself. How could I do that when I couldn't even be a good son? I'm sorry. I know what you're saying. I just don't know how things will work out. These quiet hours will turn into years. We'll wonder which roads passed us by.
Then we'll forge a new road together. Besides, I discovered for myself that one fateful morning were any hopeful roads to. There may be thorns and mist, but it always leads to the same thing.
And what's that?
Whoa!
Family.
I'm so glad that you're part of my family, Rachel.
Hello!
And I'm glad you're part of mine.
Hello! Laki ah! Tapos ang liit ko. Okay, punta na tayo sa next chapter. Woo! Ganda! Uy, parkour! Magpa-parkour na si Foxy. Come on! Hehe. Tara, move forward. Go, Foxy.
The fox knew her last cub would be waiting for her at the first tree. She was almost there. The rain cascaded onto the jade valley where the entrance to the tree was. Life was protected there, because that's where life began. It was now only a mother and a daughter left. Items from my life still dotted the ground as she moved closer to her destination and destiny.
Oh, hindi ko nakuha. Nalaglag ako. Saan na tayo pupunta? Sa first train, no? Ay, ito.
At the end of high school, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Drive. I looked into the best architecture schools on the West Coast, then got a dose of reality when looking at other students' portfolios and the high cost of tuition. I still wanted to be something, to be the next Alvaro Siza, and to make those thousands of sketches worth something in my grand history. But now even an internship sounds impossible. Siza helped me understand how essential emotion is in architecture, and he also said light is the real composer of space. I like to think these glints of light, like not finding a job, or even a strange dream about a fox, are something I should be thankful for, even if the illuminated space is something I'm less than comfortable with.
Ayun, may light ulit. Kanino kayang bahay yun? Kanino ko pa nakikita yun? Ayun. Hinahanap ko kung saan ako pupunta eh. Ano na kaya ang susunod sa istorya?
My dad was super supportive with my college plans. To a point.
Local man
Things
kill.
were okay until this terrible accident happened. I guess a forklift flipped over due to a bad axle, and it crushed one of the workers there. My dad didn't eat for days, even though he wasn't directly involved. It devastated him. Not only did it hurt the business, but it just freaked him out. He would talk in his sleep, muttering things about firing people and saying sorry. One fateful day he approached me, said that since my school search wasn't going well, I should finally be a man and take over the family business. He said one day he was going to die, and that all of his work, sacrifice, and even that man's life would be wasted in vain. I just lost it. Teenage me just exploded at the thought. I screwed up. I said things I shouldn't have. He was having a crisis, and I pretty much spit in his face.
Oh, ba't hindi mo ginawa yan? Wow. Wow. May laman yung loob. Wala.
Was that the last time you talked to him?
No, I called on holidays, and he would call on my birthday. I guess we acted like nothing ever happened, which was stupid. Didn't want to ask about his lumberyard, and I'm sure he didn't want to ask about my job search. I never went back and visited. I think the last conversation we had was about what movies we had seen and what exactly a best boy is in the credits. I thought he would be here so much longer.
Aww. Oh, ito na. Natin yung, lalo na yung magulang natin. Dapat na-appreciate natin sila. Bago pa maging huli yung lahat, alam nyo na. Hindi nyo naman masabi.
There was a letter I received yesterday from a name I didn't recognize, with a quote I can't stop thinking about. Death is not the opposite of life, but a part of it. More and more, I'm realizing one important truth. Each of us have our own journey to the first tree. But sometimes I'm not sure I'm ready to take that first step.
You already have my love.
Hello, first three. Kaya dapat, alam nyo na, may matututunan kayo sa laro na to. Siguro naman naintindihan nyo yung kwento. The first three awakens and gently asks if there is one last message the fox wants to tell her children. She replies back and says, ang galing, parang yung mga guide na light na nakuha ko, pwede kong gamitin na para ma-receive ng mga fox na bata.
Dreams normally bring back to memory so many important feelings. Maybe it was just a dream, but it was also a gift.
Yeah, I suppose. But tomorrow we're getting on a plane to the last place on Earth I want to be. The only person that would have made the trip worth it is gone.
You're going to see him and be with him one last time before you say goodbye. I I have one last quote for you by Emerson, sealed in an imaginary letter from me to you. It is the secret of the world that all things subsist and do not die, but only retire a little from sight and afterward return again. Go to sleep, my love. We have a big day tomorrow, but I'll be there with you every step of the way.
Oh, ang supportive niya.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Good night, Rachel.
Good night, Joseph.
Oh, ang ganda. Six months later. Kung sabihin magiging horror to. Nasa woods sila. Hi Rachel. Tulog ka lang Rachel. Outdoor junk. Okay. Binasa ko lang yun nasa box. Oh! Ano ang gagawin ko? Ang ganda naman ang graphics ng game na to. Nakakalungkot yung kwento niya. Memories. Oh. Bedroom, living room. Ba't bukas yung fireplace? Okay lang ba yun? Iwan nakabukas yun? Bakit ako natatakot? Archit prints. Okay. Kitchen. Hello. Nursery. Ah, cute. Uy, ba't ka lumipat ng pwesto, Rachel? Ah, wala ako sa tabi niya. Ah, ito yung truck na ano. Alis kami, 'di ba? Wait. Wow, what the heck? Ano na nangyayari? Wait, ito yung trespassing, no trespassing dun. Ito rin yung mail. Oo nga, no trespassing. Nakalock! Wala akong susi. Ah, bawal tumalon. Baka sa kabila ako. May hagdan. Saan ako papunta? Dito ba sa kabila? Dito ata sa kabila eh. Wow! Ang ganda. Mag-i-stay pala siya sa tent, tapos namiss siya talaga yung tatay niya.
What the hell?
Hello? Hindi ka makakatakas sa akin. High jumper ako. Parang makatakas ka sa akin. Us, but a journey to that destination. I'll never forget you. Tas nandun yung mga ano niya, children ng Fox. Bye-bye! Nag-levitate siya. Na-joke lang. Wow! The first three. Oh, ang ganda. Siguro naman may natutunan kayo sa kwento ng laro na to. Na dapat binibigyan natin ng importansya yung mga magulang natin. Kahit sabihin natin minsan na pag-asaran tayo, di ba? Hindi naman mas... ako ganun, pag-asaran din naman minsan. Pero syempre kahit ganun, ginagalang ko pa rin yung magulang ko. Tsaka na-appreciate ko sila sa lahat ng ginagawa nila. Ayun. So, that's it for this video, the first 3. And if you like this video, click the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my video. And I hope you learned something today. And thank you.